You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
You ready?
Yes, I couldn't have my drink.
And now you can.
Listen,
I know.
it's ambience.
We got ball ice in our new fridge.
We got ball ice.
So I have to tell you the story, and by you I mean the person listening.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
So we move into
I'm
this
gonna
new
drink
house
my
in
ball
Tennessee. And part of when we moved here, it had this amazing fridge. And it's like our other fridge from our other house, like literally was 20 years old, 19 years old, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was older.
Steph had that fridge from her previous marriage and from her previous life, and we carried it over to our new house. Anyways,
It was like before kids.
we had a way old fridge, and it was a champ, right?
Maybe.
It did everything that fridges were supposed to do.
It
Like
kept food cold and
kept food
frozen
cold.
fruit frozen. And it was one of those fancy ones that you didn't have to like de-ice.
I don't know if anybody, like people obviously from our
there's
generation
somebody
know
that's
about
listening to
de-icing
that. Yeah.
freezers, right?
Yeah. The majority of them are like, what?
Sticking blow dryers in there to.
Blow dryers.
Mhm.
I didn't put electrical equipment with the water. I stuck boiling pans of hot water in it.
Wow.
And so I let the heat and all the
How funny is that that was like a thing that you had to do in the 80s? Anyways,
that
wasn't our
that
old
wasn't
fridge.
the 80s. It was a while before I could afford a nice fridge. I had a fridge from the 80s, but it was not the 80s.
This new fridge that we have at this new house is amazing. And Steph teases me because I referred to it once. We had some people
my
come over to the
gosh.
house and do some work. We had a plumber come over. Shout out to Danny, the plumber. And no, it's not Danny, it's Donnie. Sorry, Donnie. Sorry, Donnie. I'm all nervous now.
It's okay.
Anyways, they come over to the house and do some work. And I like panicked in the moment and referred to the fridge as our pride and joy.
And I was like,
And then-
what? I was in the other room just being like, did I just hear that?
So Steph now makes fun of me because
our pride and
the fridge is
joy.
our pride and joy.
Yeah.
But it's amazing.
It is an amazing
It
fridge.
does a lot of things. Like
Yeah.
it's
It
got
does, like,
a
things.
see-through door. It's got 2 ice makers.
that lights up if you touch it.
It's
Yeah.
got like what else? All sorts
It's
of
got- yes.
it's everything.
How detailed are you going to go?
I don't think we need it. Like we don't need to spend 20
so it's
minutes
got
on
cubed ice that you can have cubed or crushed up top, but in the bottom, in the freezer drawer, which
Down below
has
is where the balls
sections-
are.
that-
It's got balls down below.
We heard these like boom, 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 because it makes noises. Like it makes freaky noises. Anyways, we open the drawer and out comes these ice like globes, these
Yes.
ice orbs.
That's a good way to put it. It's a nice
They're
globe.
beautiful. They are so beautiful. And we have this nice filtered water. So a lot of them are just transparent and beautiful. And I love
your new ice.
the ice orbs, the ice crystal orbs. Yes, the globes. I think it makes my drink taste better. And they're just pretty. And I really adore them.
I'm so glad.
And it's so silly.
It's not silly.
But
It's
I
nice, right? It's a
love
luxury
it.
item.
It is such a luxury. I didn't even know that they made them like this.
We have a fridge that makes ice. And it's our pride and joy. If you come over and visit, let us show it to you.
Oh my goodness.
We will introduce you to the fridge. We should name her.
You can, yes. She also
Fran.
doesn't. Fran?
Fran.
I haven't.
No, you don't like Fran?
Well, I'm just curious why you came up with that.
I was thinking of something with like fridge. Fran the fridge. Franny.
Yeah,
Franny the fridge.
there you go.
So it's a work in progress, folks. But
No, I think that's what it is. I don't even remember what I was going to say now.
Yeah.
Oh, the beep, beep. So if
Yeah, if you leave the door open
if you happen
too
to
long,
leave the door open too long, or if you don't shut it all the way, it like starts playing music at you to
then
let you know.
Fran talks to you.
So you can, and I apologize every time. I'm like, oh, sorry. Thank you. She's like, excuse me. You just left my drawers open. I'm out here bearing it to the world. So, sorry. Did you like how much do they really want to hear about our fridge?
Could
I think
you
they're
imagine if there was a podcast dedicated to fridges?
done. There probably is one.
Probably, huh? Some repairman that talks all about fridges.
Tag us in it. Just kidding.
There's got to be. Like, there's
Of course.
podcasts for everything nowadays.
Or a YouTube channel.
This is, what did we decide? What is it, 2023? This is year 7?
It is. We did decide that.
7 years of
Yes.
the podcast. It's coming up in June, May. I forget when the anniversary is. I think it's
I
May.
think it's,
I don't remember for sure. Anyways, holy cow.
yeah.
We just crossed over episode 350.
That's a big deal.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
Apparently to some of us,
dedication.
not to all of us.
What?
You're just like, yeah, cool, whatever.
No, I'm not.
I know.
I'm sorry, am I not being... I think it's such a big deal, and you've done such a good job, and
We
I am
both have.
so proud of you. And you are
Thank you.
amazing, and you have shown so much
I
dedication.
was not seeking attention or
What
positive
response
feedback.
did you want from me?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, so far I'm 0 for 2, so let's keep going.
Okay. So today we're going to talk about
7 years, 350.
There you go.
Thank you. Wave at the people. Wave at the people.
That's the response I was looking for sure.
No, it's actually really, really cool.
It is
I'm really
cool.
excited about it. Sorry that my face didn't match my insides.
That's okay. So we're going to get into stuff today
Yeah.
on this podcast.
Okay.
We talked beforehand. We did a little bit of prep work,
Ooh,
right?
a little
7
bit.
years into podcasting,
Just
we've
a little
decided
bit.
to do a little bit of prep work.
On this episode.
And we are going to talk about, because we come from, Steph and I oftentimes are at different ends of the spectrum. We're like polar opposites in regards to some things, just because of our personalities and our programming and things like that. Like there's ways to articulate this that kind of sum it up in a sense. Like they're broad generalizations where Stephanie tends to lean more towards a pessimistic point of view at times, and I tend to lean more towards like a optimistic point of view.
I was going to say aloof.
Aloof.
If you're going to call me pessimistic, I'm calling you aloof.
Okay.
We're name calling. That's what this podcast is about. That's what we do. Shadows in charge.
But specifically in regards to like, not cultural events, but like things that are happening in the world today, because there's a whole bunch of stuff that's going on, right? Like right now, there's the war in Ukraine. What else? We've got all sorts of rights that are being taken away in this country. We moved to Tennessee at the beginning of this year, and Tennessee turns out to be an interesting place politically. We didn't do much research about that before we moved here because it's not necessarily a big priority for us, but maybe for parts of us like you.
Yeah, parts of us. I mean, like, I don't think I'm a pessimistic. I think I can get really bogged down by it, but I think I just am more aware and I have more feelings about things. It's not necessarily that I'm pessimistic. Like,
when you say you're more aware of things,
yeah, I'm like, hey, that was kind of, So
it was kind of.
it was like right off the bat, you're like, you're pessimistic. I'm like, ouch.
I was trying to give it context
Yeah.
just so that people understood what we mean by
And you
like,
called me pessimistic and you optimistic. So one of us is judgy.
So I don't want
And-
to de-evolve over the course of this relationship to where we start arguing with each other, because that's not what this is about.
You mean the course of this conversation?
Yeah, over the course of this
You
episode.
said the course of this.
Like this episode, we could
relationship.
totally end up getting all sorts of pissed off and frustrated with each other.
Also, I'm gonna say my piece, so buckle up, buddy.
Hold on, I want to correct it, because
Okay.
What I was trying to articulate was what we're going to talk about today is how you get heavily invested in regards to what's going on and the things that you're concerned about and that you're passionate about and that you're aware of. And you bring those things to me oftentimes, and not like, hey, look at this, but like you're sharing with me, right? What's going on and what you're learning and what you're kind of interested in. And when it comes to things that are happening in the world, I don't get involved in kind of like, I just don't get involved in them the same way that you do, right? I don't let them, it's not to say I don't let them affect me, but I just choose to not look at it. So there's been a lot of stuff lately that you're like, have you heard about this? And I'm like, I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah.
And you're like, how could you not have heard about this? And I'm like, I don't pay attention to any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's not pessimistic or optimistic. That's just how you and I choose to kind of move through life.
There was also awareness that I had with that when I was bringing something up and you had like no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, like where's my energy? Where am I going? That I am not only aware of this, which is okay. Like being like, I just, gave myself, I'm like, I think I'm just aware, which I do. But like, where am I directing my energy when it's like, this is such a known and you were like, had no idea.
Yeah.
So it did give me a moment of a reset of being like, okay, where am I investing my energy?
Do you remember what that one was about?
I do.
What was it?
It was a certain politician that is just.
Do you not want to say her name? Or do you not remember it?
I do remember it, but part of me doesn't want to give her any traffic.
Okay.
Like, for those of you that aren't aware of where she's at in life and what she is spewing, you get to, like, everybody gets to be where they are. I do judge her quite a bit, and I don't want to be judgy, but I totally do. But I was just realizing at that moment, because there's a part of where I'm hearing about what's going on in the world and I am affected by it. I am emotionally charged, like ready to take action. I want to take action. I want to do things to help. And then there's a part of when I'm like, I can't believe this person, and then when it's just all of this division and judging, and when I find myself just thinking that this person is less than, then I'm not making change. I'm just perpetuating the same problem.
Right.
And so your awareness, like, who is this person? And I only know this person because of the outlandish things that they have said that make either no sense or so just barbaric and just so I only know because of basically slander, of negative energies, of negative connotation, of just like the gossip and the making fun of somebody. So when it comes to that, it's like, okay, I can redirect my energy here. But when it comes to the severe issues that are happening and people that are being targeted, then I want to do something. So that's why, I don't know, I feel a little different there.
I like this, I know that like this big caveat right now in regards to what I'm about to say is not going to help in any way
you get to have your opinion.
This right. I'm shooting myself in the foot with this caveat.
Are you?
I want you, I would like you to do the best that you could to express to me what, like, your, like, this is an open opportunity, not in a hurtful way, obviously, but what are your thoughts and or judgments of me when it comes to the idea that I don't, like, when you bring stuff to me and I'm not concerned about it, or I don't know about it, or I don't prioritize it, or I'm not passionate about it. Like, what does that feel like for you? What kind of goes through your mind in regards to me, and, like, even in the context of like our relationship, what does that feel like to have somebody that you're a partner with who could care less about some of those things? And it's not that I'm uncaring, it's just that I'm not focused on those. Those aren't the things that I choose to, like, spend my time thinking about or dwelling on.
Usually it's not an issue. I mean, you don't have to have the same reactions and things that I have. Like, usually it's not an issue at all. And, sometimes it surprises me that there's not more of a reaction from you. But usually it's not an issue. You don't have to be up in arms because I am, And you also do a really good job of when something has rocked me, that if I'm crying for people and the pain that they're experiencing and lives lost, you do a really good job at hearing me. You don't tell me I'm wrong. You don't try and be like, well, look at it this way. Sometimes you say, look at it this way, but you most part, you catch it and you just hear me. You just witness while I'm experiencing and expressing this thing that has affected me. And it hasn't affected me. I'm pretty fortunate that directly I haven't been affected by it, but emotionally I am feeling for what is happening. Yeah. And you just allow that to be such a space where I get to feel that.
You don't have any judgment?
I didn't say any. I said most of the time. Okay. And then there are times where I get kind of angry and fed up and I judge by thinking, well, yeah, you're you're in a position where these things don't affect you. So you don't care because you're not
I have the
being
luxury.
directly affected. And so I get a little irritated. But then, like, you don't need to, like, there's a different role that everybody has. So I don't spend a lot of time being mad at you for not being mad, not being upset, not being heartbroken, not being scared. And I try to keep myself in a state where I'm not perpetuating, but also I want to do something.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what to do. So I don't spend a lot of time judging you for it, but it happens. It definitely happens.
Well, that part of like, I want to do something. I don't know if we're being really clear. Are we being clear enough of like what we're talking about?
This isn't a live call. I don't know. I can't get immediate feedback.
Hold on. We've got a caller.
Do you know what we're talking about?
It looks like a caller from,
I feel like there's some of our like listeners are sitting there like, yeah, we're with you. And other ones are like, no, we never know what you're talking about.
So let's bring up a topic. Recently, sadly, there was a school shooting here in Tennessee, just in Nashville, not long ago, just a few weeks back. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's travesty, and it's terrible. And it's the norm in this country at this point in time. And
which, do you hear that sentence right there?
That's a terrible thing, right? That's a
travesty. School shootings are a norm in this country.
And we're going to, it's the April of 2023, right? We're moving in, we're already in election season. Mm-hmm. So 2024 next year with the new presidential election, we're already in that season and in that time period. So the divisiveness of this country, right, is going to become massive.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be on another scale that we potentially haven't experienced in the last decade or so, for a variety of reasons.
You were traveling during the last election, right?
I was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in Texas during the last election I was traveling during the last election.
Yeah.
But all of these things that are going to start becoming really clear left or right issues, mm-hmm. right? All these issues that they get brought forth. And I mean, there's an endless list of them. It's not just school shootings. That's just one of many, unfortunately. We've got human rights, we've got trans rights, we've got women's rights, we've got
all the things that are
just
interracial,
every
Indian
issue that you can,
Act, so many
so many different things that are coming up,
happening?
Right? All the environmental things that are taking place in the country. There was it's not recent, it was a few months now worth the train derailment in Ohio.
They had another major one that is also spilling out.
Right. So there's all sorts of things that are taking place just in the United States. And then you expand that outwards, and obviously there's a ton of stuff that's happening on a global scale.
Yeah.
All of it, when you start to look at it, and I feel like this is what you do sometimes, and not from a judgmental perspective, but it becomes massively overwhelming, right?
It does actually become massively. That's not a judgment. That is an accurate, observation.
Yeah.
I have to step out. I have to step back. Because when I realize my feed becomes one thing after another, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Because it's not like I'm focusing here and doing any good. I'm just getting lost in the chaos. And that is not beneficial.
So the reason we wanted to bring this up and talk about it on the podcast is because we come from different perspectives.
Right.
Stephanie will get invested into these things, into these issues, and just become invested and absorbed and kind of overwhelmed
slightly
by
pessimistic at times.
Sometimes
I will give
pessimistic
you that.
about it.
I was at first don't call me pessimistic. I'll take my own
the majority of the time, I am very much in the camp of there's nothing that I can do about it. And my answer...
and I think we can.
See, I think we can too. I think that's an excuse that I use because I feel helpless.
Totally helpless, yes.
The only answer that I have, and it's twofold. I think this answer is the answer, and it is the solution to all of these problems. And there's also more that can be done on top of this thing. But I think the answer to all of these issues is work on yourself. It's just simply if you continually go inwards and continually work on healing yourself and your traumas and your wounds and all the things that influence and shape how you see the world, like that progression, that evolution that takes place in the healing journey of an individual eventually gets them to some point in that process where they can no longer see another person and think that X, Y, and Z is okay, right? We can't exist on the planet and think that it's okay to do all of these terrible things to other people and other cultures and other races and other, because you just can't. Like, that's the evolution process of kind of healing. So that's my solution, is just work on yourself, which is what I do, right? I continually try to work on myself. So then when I go out into the world, I'm being the best version of myself and trying to help and influence and shape, not like in a manipulative way, but, interact with people in a positive, healthy way. Yeah. And that's
everybody.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah. I think that's a really good thing that people can do. But now the question is, what else? What more can we do?
Well, honestly, like, your work on yourself I think is also the answer. And that's not just me being like, oh, Craig, I agree with everything you say. Mm-hmm. You're so right. But I agree with this so much. I agree that working on yourself is crucial, because all of your judgments, all of my judgments, my biasms, my perceptions, and like the way that I see things should be come from the work that I've done on myself, and they come from all the trauma, all the shit. I'm bringing all of my judgments forward and then projecting them out.
Yeah.
And trying to find a healthy way, because it's no different when you are now taking all of that against a group of people and placing those same biasms and judgments. However, I feel like I have this like righteousness, right? Because my biasms and judgments aren't taking the lives of anybody else. They're not causing other people to want to, the politically correct, what they say, unalive. They're not causing anybody to take their own lives or take anybody else's lives. It's allowing people to be who they are. So by saying, I'm not trying to suppress anybody, but I am trying to say, stop suppressing people. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not taking away any of their rights by saying, stop taking away people's rights. I'm not taking any rights away from anybody. They still get to have all their rights. We're just saying everybody gets to have these rights. Okay, I started going off on a tangent. Bring it back. So working on the self, finding out where that's coming from in you, those triggers and those biasms that they have in you. So you're not projecting that out. You're not reacting all over. You're acting in a way that you want, which also can look like being an activist, because maybe working on yourself is helping others. Maybe you're healing parts of yourself and working on yourself by giving love and help to others. So it can look in so many different ways, but you have to start with yourself. I agree with you completely. And if everybody else is doing that, right? And maybe they are, but they're not doing it the way that I think, right? Or is that thing when if you're working on yourself, but your partner isn't? Like, maybe they are.
Right.
That's their best self. It's just not at a level where we think it should be. So we're deeming them as not doing the work.
So then we have to accommodate for that.
Right.
We have to allow that person to be wherever they're at on their journey of whatever it is, right?
Right. But that doesn't mean that they get to cause abuse and harm.
But it does.
Oh, see, I disagree strongly there.
Because
I'm not going to let them, I'm going to stand in the way of that.
But this is the argument, right?
This is where we get a little divided at the
because
podcast table.
If we're gonna allow the person to be wherever they're at on their journey, then that means that we have to allow them to have the beliefs and the thoughts that they have.
They can have the beliefs and the thoughts. It's the actions that I'm talking about.
So think about it this way. And this is me playing devil's advocate.
Sure.
I try not to do this.
Devil needs a teammate, I guess.
That's right.
Go for it.
Devil needs a teammate.
Team devil.
That's like the pacifist thing ever to say. Sure, go ahead. I guess everybody needs a partner.
Right?
Yep.
I like that me calling it out is like, you're being passive. That was like, don't call me out on accuracy. That's passive.
Okay, remember, we're not going to
Shadows.
de-evolve into arguing and fighting with each other.
Sometimes my shadow is a kick-ass chick and she's got some fun things to say. I said that. She told me to say that.
She did. She did tell
say
you to
that.
say that. Okay.
She's an instigator.
She's a rabble rouser. See, now I don't even know what I was saying. What was I saying?
You were trying to be the devil's advocate.
Well, this is the issue, right? Because like in the political sphere.
Do you know what it...
What?
Ooh, I'm fired up. I was getting ready to...
Attack me.
I was like, woo. Continue.
This is the example.
It is. It's
where we
perfect
have
example.
Different opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the idea that I'm trying to get you to change your mind.
Are you?
I'm not.
Yeah.
And I just get to hold my opinion.
Yeah.
Like that's what happens where you've got opposing opinions.
Yeah.
And what should
and
be or what shouldn't be, right?
And you feel strong. They feel strong. Everybody feels strong.
Yeah. And like this is the problem. The problem is that we are allowing one opinion to be chosen over the other opinion.
Yeah.
Like instead of just having opinions exist, like the idea that we somehow have to choose which one is going to be the law that governs us, I think that's the problem.
Explain that more. I don't understand what you're saying exactly.
So take your pick on whatever topic you want, right? We can use trans rights, where that's one that's being called into question right now across the country.
It's being obliterated.
Right. Because you've got a certain sect of people that think that they need to protect whoever, right? Protect children, protect society, protect whatever from trans people. So now we're going to limit those rights or eliminate those rights because they're causing whatever their argument is, right? Some sort of issue with the world or with society. That's their opinion.
It is their opinion. I don't even know if it's their opinion as much as it's what they're claiming their opinion is. So a justification of their...
It doesn't matter.
I know.
That's the thing is
I do get a little fired up.
It doesn't matter if they believe it or not. It's their opinion. It's their belief. It's their action. All of those things get to exist. And we don't have to tell them that they're wrong. Just as we get to think the things that we think and we get to have our opinions, right? So those two things can happen where both people can be right. Mm-hmm. Now what we need to stop doing is then picking which one is the most right, because then that's what goes into law and influences and shapes culture and society. Now,
okay.
How do we go about doing that?
Okay. I agree with that. Because I'm sitting there, I'm like, no.
Because that's the argument, right? My side is right. No, my side is right.
And I'm going to make it a law now.
Right? Whoever's in power gets to make their side right for however long until somebody else comes along and changes it.
Okay.
So that game that gets played over and over and over again, it doesn't work. Let's just both acknowledge that we're right. And then what do we do after that? I'm curious.
Live your life and let people live theirs.
So do we need laws to govern us?
I think that's a bigger question than I'm prepared to answer. I think that
there's a certain part of this culture, Western culture, right? Based off of religion and Christianity and things like that, where you have to have some sort of 10 Commandments, rules or structure or something. Otherwise, it would be utter chaos. If we didn't have laws, it would be the purge, where everybody would just be out there raping, pillaging, plundering, murdering, taking, stealing, right? Destroying everybody else. I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I was like, that's one opinion.
Right.
I mean, I think from the state of where things are, I think if there were no laws, that's what it would be right now.
I don't think it would be.
Yeah.
I really don't.
I would really like to think that it would just become... Anyways, I guess I don't need to spend a lot of time in this hypothetical space. I think that... I'm sorry, that wasn't an attack. I was just getting ready to really give a deep introspective thought on what I think would happen on a positive aspect if suddenly there were no laws and seeing the higher selves of the collective rise. And I was like, that's in some dimension that's happening. But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm presenting a thought experiment that doesn't really, it's not to say it can't exist, but it doesn't seem very reasonable at this current juncture where we're just going to both agree. Oh, we agree to disagree. You have your opinion. I have my opinion. And now we'll just move on. In the meantime, what do we do?
Yeah, it's a power addiction. It's not necessary. It's a power control addiction. Mm-hmm. So it's nothing to do with laws or protecting the people. I mean, obviously they don't care about protecting the kids or things that will be a little different than.
But that's your opinion.
That is my opinion. And I get to have my opinion.
They believe they are protecting children.
Well, then I would like to see the number of children being murdered drop significantly.
Right.
So.
These problems exist, and we don't have answers for them. So if you tuned into this podcast looking for answers.
See Steph being a little triggered.
It's so hard.
Like, yeah, I'm pretty upset. Like,
it's bringing it all up for you to feel, right?
I mean, not in this moment, but like, so I'm curious. So like, you hear these things and like, there is the higher perspective, right? There's the higher perspective of like, nothing is right or wrong. Things are just what is. The higher perspective of this is temporary. It will change. This is one filter. This is like, if all we had is the perception of where we are right now, our perception is like an oasis. Our perception is, you can even, like, I don't know, heaven on earth. We are in such a great place, and we are just lucky and fortunate, and we're seeing what's happening in the world. But then you have somebody else's perspective that is like this is gonna like take a little loop. You have somebody else's perspective. This came from the last we'll loop background, that it is dire, mm-hmm. and that it is like completely oppressive. There is no like end in sight. There is no hope. This is like the worst end game right there. And like both are true. And it's the same exact consciousness. It's the same exact thing that's happening, just different perspectives, different places. And on top of that, what you had before is whose filter is seeing this as end game, and whose filter is seeing this as, wow, this is a really great life. Mm-hmm. So, hello, throat. So it just like when you big picture and look it out and kind of expand from it, this is temporary. It's changing. It's bringing change. You need the destruction to bring the rebirth. So all of it is necessary for a higher and greater good. Eventually, maybe we see it, maybe we don't. Higher and greater, who's to say? It might be just like all of these higher perspectives. And I'm like, what if the higher perspective is to make the change? What if the higher perspective is to come in and say no more? No more. So I have this like duality here of like, even if it's the wrong choice, I don't know how at this point in time it doesn't feel right within me. And, subject to change. I've changed my perspective a million times, and I'll change it a million more. But at this point in time, I want to be a voice that says you can't. I'm going to make it harder for you to hurt people. Like, you get to think whatever you think. You get to do whatever you're going to do. But when it starts to affect other people's bodies, what people do with their own bodies does not hurt you. You may not like it, but it doesn't hurt you. When people start to take action and do things to other people's bodies, either by directly doing it or preventing them from doing what they want to do to their own bodies, that's a problem.
I agree. All worked up.
I am all worked up. I'm just like, I don't want to just, I want to be able to do more. Right. And it's important for me to do more.
It feels like doing your own work isn't enough.
I feel like doing my own work is making the strength in me that wants to do more. I don't want to hurt anybody else. I no longer, like the people that are being oppressive, Like, I don't want any harm to them. Just like there's this part of them that are so afraid inside, that didn't get love, that got hurt, that was taught this, that there's a part of them that is so wounded that this is how they're. So I don't want to hurt them, but I do want to like block like that hate.
So
I want to like how would it be? Like, what happens if you give them love back? And maybe that's just me being delusional. I don't know.
Like there's an aspect of this deeper work that we're talking about, like the inner work process of trying to heal all these different parts of ourselves. So then we then reflect out into the world. Like what we're articulating, like there's an aspect of what you're articulating is there's a sect of people, or not even a sect of people. Everybody has biasms. Everybody has perspectives based off of their upbringing, their programming, everything like that, right? And they have criticisms and judgments about the world around them, right? Whether it be a certain race, sexual orientation, religion, whatever it is. Like we criticize and judge people around us. Like that's human nature to some extent because it's based off of survival, right? So if you're different than my tribe, then you're different than my tribe and I need to be fearful of you. So the process becomes learning how to love everybody, like in this way of they have the same equal rights that I have, regardless of what they look like, think, feel, express, anything like that. So then how do you internalize that into your own process of working inside of yourself? Because you still have those same criticisms and judgments externally of people.
Yeah.
So then the work...
I suffer from the same thing that I'm judging them for having.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So we can't ask somebody to do something that we aren't willing to do ourselves.
Exactly.
Which means you then have to then go inside and really sit with the criticism that we have towards that individual person or the judgment that you have towards that group of people that look, think, feel differently than you do. And then that becomes like the real change that can actually make a change. Because imagine shifting that inside of yourself, okay? Where you don't see that person as somebody that's trying to hurt or restrict or take away. You see that person as like a loving human that's worthy of unconditional love,
is doing their best,
who is showing up in their life the best that they know how, right? Now, suddenly, if you can see that person that way, like truthfully see that person that way, and you don't have that criticism and judgment anymore, now your view of the world has changed.
Yeah. So
everything that you're struggling with right now on trying to come up with ways to do more, that will disappear. Because the view that you have of the world will shift and change.
I don't exactly agree with that.
Does my concept does it make sense what I'm trying to say though?
I think you're talking about filters. Like if I see everybody lovingly, which first of all, I am human and I do not have that ability to see every person lovingly. I still have judgments and biasms and like I'm not Jesus. Like I can't do that. I'm working towards it. I'm doing way better, but like I don't, I doubt that I'm going to hit that level in this consciousness. But if I see everybody lovingly and as innocent and pure and doing the best they can, then my entire, I no longer see the problems that I'm seeing now.
It will change.
Did I recap that? So then, yes, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay,
yeah.
Good. I don't completely agree with that. Are you asking? Because I feel like I talked a lot because I can tell you what I think.
Yeah, let me hear what you think.
But I also did it a lot. So if you're not done with your thought.
I am.
It's just, I think the only thing that changes, because it does change my filter, right? But I think the only thing that changes is the judgment and the suffering and the, at times, hate that can build up towards the other person. But it doesn't, for me, right? Unless all the world is doing this simultaneously at once, which how great would that be? But it doesn't change the things that are happening. It just changes the way I feel about the person inflicting it. It changes the way that I see the world as, that I may see the world as like dire. So it doesn't take away what is happening. It doesn't take away the bad. It doesn't make all of a sudden that go away. It just, my perception and my reaction to the things that are happening are different, but it's still there. It's not magically gone because I no longer have such strong aversion or judgment, criticism, hate, rage, whatever level it goes to, towards the person that's inflicting it on somebody else. But that's just my point of view.
Yeah. I wish I had the answer.
I wish you did too.
I wish we could figure this out in the next 20 minutes before this episode's over.
Well, I think you have. I think everybody needs to do their own work at the level at which we think they should be doing their work. And then boom. Obviously that was a joke. Obviously that's the problem. Everybody is thinking it needs to be their way. But everybody doesn't need to do their work, babe. And maybe they are.
So what part of what judgment do you have that you can work with?
I'm working with a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm working with a lot of them. And I'm also giving myself freedom and grace there that I'm not expected to release every single judgment that I have. I'm not Jesus. I'm not Buddha. I mean, I guess maybe in some level, right? I'm me. I'm here. I'm in this body. I'm this consciousness at this point in time. And I can keep doing better. But I'm not failing if I can't hit perfection and have no judgments. I don't think the goal
is to release every judgment.
Yeah.
It's the ability to have the judgment and not let it influence your actions.
I don't mind. No, I'm not talking about perception. I'm talking about judgment.
Yeah.
I don't not being blind to it, still have the perception, still have the awareness, but I would like to not lose, but I would like to release the judgments, because that is where now we're connected, because now I have this visceral or even so I don't know.
It's so scary.
So I have the perception without the judgment.
Do you know what I mean? I feel like it's so scary. All of this stuff.
Yeah.
If you just really lean into all of it and start to get overwhelmed by it, there aren't any answers for it. There's a sect of people, society right now, that thinks that we're on the brink of nuclear war.
Right.
Where we're one, week away from Putin pushing the button.
If both sides are right, then that's true.
Right. And lately now they're taking our money. The cash is gone, and
all these tips on how to.
All these things.
Mm-hmm.
It's all fear. It's all fear.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
I would absolutely say it's fair.
Why are we all so afraid?
Because we're all so divided.
I don't know what to do. Sit with fear yourself. What are you afraid of?
What am I afraid of?
Mm-hmm.
Cottonmouths.
Afraid of snakes. I thought you were talking about cottonmouth from smoking too much weed.
No.
That's why we don't smoke weed anymore.
Oh, we couldn't handle the cottonmouth, so we needed to stay hydrated. So bye weed. That was a very funny time to cough.
What's one of your core fears?
One of my core fears?
Yeah.
Ooh, why don't you go first?
Okay. I mean, to summarize a core fear of mine, it would be not being loved, being alone.
Yeah.
That's one of my core fears, that I'm going to be unloved and alone. And I think that's a pretty common core fear for people.
Yeah.
It kind of boils down to, I'm not going to be loved, and I'm going to be all alone. So then, how do we, if that's the core fear, then how is that then influence, expand that core fear out? Now, how is that influencing, shaping everything that's taking place? Are we creating all of this chaos and all of this mass hysteria and fear and everything that's taking place and destroying other people and countries and, taking away rights? Are we doing all of that to prove that one thing, that we aren't loved?
Maybe.
And that we're really going to be left alone? So we're just subconsciously, behaving in a way as society to prove this fear that we have, because it's all ego-based driven fear stuff.
And if we're really going to be alone, then we need to, like, how do we still ensure our survival with being alone, with greed and accumulation of resources and taking it from others too?
Yeah. So what's one of yours? One of your core fears?
Not being able to protect and provide for people that I love, my family, my kids, that I'm just unable to
protect those that you
unable
love.
to protect. And also sitting with the realization that is in fact true.
It is. There's nothing you can do
There's
about it.
nothing I can do. It doesn't mean that I won't do anything. Doesn't mean that I just sit there and let it happen. But also knowing that there are things that I just can't stop, change, or control.
Yeah.
And there are things that are just, they're not in these hands. As much as I want them to be, they are not in these hands. And you just have to
I think that's a lot of what's driving all of these issues too.
Yeah.
Is people afraid they're trying to protect their loved ones
Yeah.
in the way that they see fit. And they're afraid that they're not going to be able to. So they're going to do what they can to try to, fix that fear instead of facing the cold truth of you can't.
You can't. And
Right?
you are causing problems.
It's that thing that we recognize as parents where at some point you just have to let your kid be not just who they are, but live the life that they're going to live and make the decisions that they're going to make.
Yeah.
Even when you know that, or when you believe that those,
Yeah.
I was going to say it's not quite a knowing, but when you believe that those decisions are going to bring them pain. You can't protect them from pain. You can't protect them from suffering. You can't protect them from grief.
And also when you're doing that, you're taking away their joy.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking away their learning. You're taking away their autonomy to be able to go and live their lives because you're trying to make them live your life the way you think it should go. So realizing you're making the best choices for you.
Yeah.
I just get to champion that.
I think we may have come full circle in this conversation now because it comes back to working on yourself, facing your fears, and being able to really get to the core of what those fears are in your shadow.
Yeah.
And recognizing that sitting in the uncomfortable space that you can, we're all, I think at the end of the day, we're trying to avoid death.
Right?
Right?
The ego's not today.
Really, that's probably what the core of all of this stuff is. We're trying to avoid death.
Yeah.
And I see something that threatens me, which means I might die or the people that I love might die. So we're trying to avoid a certainty.
You're trying to avoid a certainty. Yeah, we're all going to die anyways, but it doesn't have to be today.
But maybe it is today.
Maybe it is today.
The idea that it doesn't have to be today is still some semblance of control that I'm trying to hold on to.
What if those people are put in our paths where maybe it is today, but maybe it's not because we are the ones that are supposed to, that is universally designed to come in and help.
Help change things?
Yeah, help change things. Help, so if we let things just go as it is, because that's, however, but what if the design, what if our fate is
to influence and shape the change?
To influence and help and stop lives being taken and stop mutilation and stop segregation, stop isolate. They're bringing all of these things are coming back.
Yes.
Everything that we have evolved, tried so hard to evolve out of that was just
all of your greatest
never
fears
went away.
will come back. That's what shadow work is.
Yeah.
Heal it, and then what happens?
I was just saying, when the universe puts something, brings something to you, you don't necessarily have to say, oh, not universe. No, I'm not listening to you. I'm going to do something.
How comfortable are you with the cold reality of death?
It depends on the day.
Right.
Some days I'm really good with it. And some days I'm oh my God. Some days I welcome it. It just depends on the day.
Do you sit in the space of there isn't anything to fear because it's not the end? Or do you still struggle with the dynamic of maybe it's the end?
It depends on the day. Some days I'm You know, it's not the end. And then some days I'm like, oh my God, what if it's not the end?
Like there's a part of what Elon, like the holy complete left turn here, but
Okay.
like part of what Elon is doing with getting us to Mars is trying to avoid the certainty.
Elon's not getting us to Mars.
Right. But
Elon's
he has
kidding.
said, like he has talked about how like we need to be a multi-planetary species so
Yeah,
that the
that's for
race
the-
continues. Are you going to?
I was going to start judging. Again, I'm not claiming to be anything other than human. I still have judgments and biasms.
But think about it from this perspective, right? Where if that's what he's trying to do, or if that's the thought process, right? He's still just avoiding this cold truth of, you're still going to die, right?
Yes.
We can't, like the idea that eventually the human race will be gone.
Yes.
Every human that's alive today will be dead.
Probably.
And there's going to come a point in history and time in the future, right, where the human race ceases to exist.
Probably. Who knows? Maybe.
Now, can we just sit there and be like, okay, cool, because we aren't these bodies.
That doesn't scare me.
That what? The human race is going to end?
I don't know. Just the thought of that one day humans might not exist anymore.
That doesn't scare you?
No.
But what about you not existing anymore?
It depends on the day.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm not trying.
Some days I am really okay with it. Some days I am like, no, not today. And I am praying. I'm asking for help. I'm doing all, and some days it depends. I fluctuate. I'm okay with it some days and I'm okay with it, not okay with it other days.
Maybe that's the work that everybody needs to do, is not just healing their own stuff, but getting really comfortable with their own death and the realization that not only are they going to die, but their loved ones are going to die as well.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I can definitely sit with the entire human race and myself a lot better. But when we start talking about my loved ones, I'm like, I have to breathe.
Right.
I have to breathe. I don't have, that one is much harder. Like understanding that in time and years and years and years and years from now, humans might not cease to exist. Isn't like
scary.
That one isn't as scary. Like there's times that I think, well, what about, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably going to happen. The level of pain, and like that's the part that I need to kind of release from, because what humans are going to go through getting to that period, and this is dark, is the part where I'm like, that is like, I know it's a part of but like there's so many things that don't have to, that are a choice. People are making choices. Like, why are we, like, one judgment, one perception? Like, you're feeling like resources are better spent on trying to cultivate life on Mars. You have that. No. This is just like, I'm not you, but like, this is just a part of how my brain works, right? Is you're trying to like, let's escape, cultivate life on Mars, because that, and then only, this, like, if you have the ability to cultivate life on Mars, you have the ability to, like, I think there's some stuff that we can do right here on this planet. This is where we are.
Yeah.
And granted, not the mind, not the body. We're in avatars. Our avatars are here on Avatar Earth. So we can do things here lovingly.
Yes.
We can make loving actions, loving choices. And then I hear everybody thinks that they're being loving to somebody.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
I think we just have to get comfortable with death. And then we're not avoiding anything.
Yeah.
Because then we're not afraid of anything. Like if the ultimate fear is the fear of death, right? The end of you or me or the people that we love. And we can just take that fear off the table and it's no longer something that we fear. Then I think a lot of things become a lot easier.
They do.
Where now it's not, I don't need to sit in so much criticism and judgment over what other people are doing because I'm not afraid of dying. like what they choose to do with their life. And even we're gonna
No,
go
I
in
just love this.
circles.
Like, not being afraid of something doesn't mean that you now have no action towards something.
I completely agree. Obviously, like, big caveat, we're going to wrap up this episode here
We're
in just a
gonna
second, but I'm not in the camp of like, you just need to get comfortable with death and work on yourself, and that's all you have to do. And it doesn't matter what other people do. Obviously, it does matter. Obviously, there is more that needs to be done. But I do think that a huge part of that process involves doing your own work, so that when you go out into the world, you're meeting everybody from a different place rather than from a judgmental, criticizing, fear-based like perspective of everybody's wrong. I need to protect, I need to defend, I need to fight. All of those things, I think, are just cultivating and spinning in all of that fear that we can all heal. Mass healing.
Mass healing.
Let's do a mass healing event. Coming next month.
Right.
It's
on our next live call.
Anything else, babe?
Oh, we're going to keep talking.
I don't think so. I think we're never bringing this topic up again.
I meant when we walk out of the podcast room. I'll be like, no, I don't have anything else. I'm trying to make jokes. I wonder, like, just like in this of how, like, we got caught up in the circle too, like you said, of how you wanted, whether it was focalized or not, you want me to see it your way.
Yeah.
And like, my shadow's a little more tricky. It's like, I don't need you to see it my way, right? Tricky. But I don't want you to see it your way,
right?
Because your way. I'm like, that's the same thing, shadow. that's not enlightened.
I don't need you to see it my way.
Right?
Nope.
Yeah.
You just can't see it your way.
Right? Shut up. Gaslighting shadow. Trying to act like you're being a... Knock it off.
Okay, let's go on to answering questions.
Okay.
You can always submit your questions. You can email them to us at info@energyisLove.love. You can also message us online. You did a great job of not playing with that pen.
I'm sorry. I just realized it was in my hand instead of the rock.
If you've got an idea for fidget spinners for Stephanie that won't make audio noise on the podcast.
I have my lovely rock, but I just forget and sometimes grab my pen.
That's okay.
I don't even know why I didn't even write anything down.
We need to get you a pen that has no clickiness. Anyways.
Seems like we got one right there.
Right? Ask questions. We love to get questions, and we will answer them on the podcast. So
yes.
Email them to us, or you can just message us on social media places where you find us. So today's episode, the question that we're answering today is...
This week's.
Are you ready this week's?
Yes.
I can't stop asking my partner if they're angry at me. I'm always afraid I've done something to upset them, and I feel like they're getting more and more upset with me the more I keep asking. What do I do? It's a good question.
It's a good question.
This happens all the time. You and I both
Did we
do this.
demonstrate it? No, we didn't demonstrate it this episode. We have. We definitely have.
We're probably going to demonstrate it in our relationship later today.
Probably.
Are you, baby? That episode was really difficult.
Are you okay?
Are you upset with me?
Okay?
Are you okay? Are you mad?
And seeing, are you okay? Isn't a bad one. It's when, are you okay? Are you okay?
Are you okay?
Are you okay?
Are you mad?
Are you
Are you mad?
Okay.
Are you mad?
And it's not necessarily bad. It just can have another weight to it that you're not consciously intending.
So what do you do? What are some things that help in this space because this is emotional monitoring, right? So what do you do when you're continually emotionally monitoring your partner or your surroundings or your like entire environment for threats and danger?
If you like have awareness where you catch that you're emotionally monitoring, you're asking the same repetitive questions, like, are you okay? You're needing them to constantly like tell you that you're safe, basically, even though that's not what you're asking. So having awareness with that and acknowledging what you're feeling, bringing awareness to your feelings. And even if you can't name what you're feeling, just like that, okay, I'm activated. I'm triggered. This is what I'm feeling right now. Even if I can't name it, that is enough to realize I'm in an activated state. I'm in a trigger state. And just the acknowledgement of those feelings and the allowance of them. You don't have to change them right now. Just like, whoo, this is what's happening. This is what's happening inside of me, and sitting with that feeling. When you're not activated And when you're not in a triggered spot, when you're not going up to your partner and being like, are you mad at me? Are you okay? Is there something I can do for you? What you need? Let me caretake. When you're in a calmer place and they're also not in an activated state, bringing this up to them, being like, I noticed this is what's happening. I notice I'm doing this thing that is coming across and asking you constantly, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you mad at me? This is what it feels like inside of me. This is what it feels like. And then ask, what does it feel like for you? Give them the opportunity to talk about what they experience with that and really hear them. So they heard you, and now like really giving them a chance to express their perception of it, because it's going to be different from your awareness. It's like they're going to have a whole other perception, and maybe they don't have words for it right now because you just asked them to express something that they haven't sat with and know how to say anything other than it's annoying, it's frustrating, I don't know what to say. And that's okay if that's as far as they get.
Yeah.
Just allowing them to have their experience and say, maybe you could even encourage that later on and be like, this is something that I really want to work on. Would you be open to sitting with how that makes you feel on a deeper level and coming back to me? Can we talk about this in the future? Can you bring this? I need your help with that. Beautiful. I need your help with this. Is that something that you feel like you would be willing to help me in and to express and share yourself with? And just opening up the box, opening up the space for there to be dialogue and other possibilities than when you're kind of circling that.
Yeah, because you have to bring awareness to the recognition that this isn't who you are. This isn't just that you're like nagging or annoying. Like if your partner's doing this and you just get so frustrated, they're always asking me if I'm mad or if I'm angry. We get hyper focused on the behavior rather than acknowledging where the behavior comes from. And so when you can recognize where the behavior comes from, then you can start to have compassion for it. Like this type of behavior, this type of coping mechanism stems from growing up and being exposed to unsafe environments when you were a child. Like that's what it comes from, right? If you're constantly scanning for threats and safety, that's going to be something that's developed over the course of your life. And now it's just playing out in your relationship because it's a survival mechanism. So rather than becoming hyper-focused on the behavior and being like, you need to fix this problem, let's actually look at where the problem stems from and what the behavior comes from. And then approaching it from that compassionate place of like, oh, okay, I never saw it that way, or I didn't realize that that's what was happening. I can definitely help you with that. And then bringing awareness when it does come up, just having those pattern interrupts of be like, hey, it feels like you're kind of doing some of that emotional monitoring right now because I'm starting to feel a little whatever it is, right? I'm starting to feel a little frustrated that you keep asking me over and over again. Or maybe this is the third time that you've asked me and I'm reminding you everything's okay. You might be doing this behavior. You might be doing this emotional monitoring. What are you feeling right now? And that might be enough of a pattern interrupt in your relationship where you can be like, oh my gosh, thank you for bringing this to my awareness. What am I actually feeling? And then just sit with it. Just have awareness of it. It's like everything else where we can't heal or change, shift, or do anything until we have awareness of what it is that we're actually working on. Otherwise, you're just, shooting in the dark and bumping around into the same old problems over and over and over again. So give those things a shot. Have compassion and love for yourself first and foremost, right? This is a difficult thing to stop. It's a difficult behavior to shift because it is a very, very core survival technique that you developed in order to keep yourself safe. So it's a great question.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you for the question.
Yeah. It comes up all the time. Like I said, we still do it all the time.
Yeah.
So we're continually practicing it ourselves. If you have questions, you can submit them anytime. Like we said, just email them to us. It's info@energyisLove.love or directly message us on social media. And
you can find us
TikTok.
It's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube,
all over the place. And come join us this month. Energy is Love together. Go learn about it at the website. You can come sign up and be a part of the community. We're very, very excited about it.
Yeah.
Last but not least, if you enjoyed this episode or if you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe to it and leave us a 5-star rating and then leave us a quick review. Tell us something about the podcast that you love and then share your favorite episode with a friend. That would be incredibly beneficial and we would be deeply grateful.
I would.
Enjoy it and we'll see you guys next week.
See you.